How's it going, everybody? It's Thursday night. It's your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, and we have a lot to get into tonight, including Sami Zayn in Montreal. Should the man be champion today? Is it time for AEW to choose a different direction from MJF? And is there an actual surprise announcement that could be made by Tony Khan that would be worthy of being called a big surprise? All that and more tonight on your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Stay tuned, folks. We're getting into it right after this.
Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really need is that Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt.
How's it going, everybody? It's your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast on another Thursday night here with the guys, and we almost got a full house. Not quite, as 2 Chainz is away this week, but in his place, we got Damian G back for the first time since we started season 3 here. How's it going, Damian?
It's going well, everybody. Good to be back. Missed you guys. Ready to talk some wrestling.
Heck yeah, good to see you again back with the crew. And of course, down below, we got the Giant Crab Jamal and Silly Sellas. How's it going, gentlemen?
All good. Good. Productive week.
I turned on my air conditioning in February. Is that bad?
Yes, that is bad.
That's typical for Texas.
It is some crazy weather today here in the DMV area because we are pushing 80, and apparently it's going to go right back down into the 50s tomorrow. So it is strange times happening that it's February and all this is going on, but it is what it is. But folks, we are here. It's another week in wrestling, and we are coming off the heels of Elimination Chamber, which seems to have been the big topic of the week because we are a good 4 or 5 days removed from it now. And I still see people going around in circles about that main event and whether WWE did the right thing or not. So we are going to open the show with what seems to be the biggest topic on people's tongues this week. And it's very simple. Should Sami Zayn have been made the WWE champion in Montreal this past Saturday night? Because people seem to have very strong feelings about this, that they dropped the ball. It was now or never. They can never recapture this moment. And WrestleMania and the Tribal Chief be damned. Sami Zayn should have been made champ. So this is what we're going to do. Damian, you haven't been here since the end of last year. So let's let you start out. Get in here first. Thoughts on Elimination Chamber, Sami Zayn, and the WWE title picture?
Yes, in my opinion, Sami should have won the belt, but only because it was in Montreal, not because he was garnering so much support from the IWC. And it could have been done in a shiesty way where Jey Uso super kicks Roman by accident, or like Roman wants to use a chair, Jey super kicks the chair onto Roman's head, he's knocked unconscious, Sami crawls over not knowing what happened, gets the 3 count, loses the title on Monday just to take it away as a transitional champion, just to pull the old Zack Ryder with The Miz from WrestleMania a few years back. And I think that would have been the perfect dovetailing to the story while still keeping the bloodline suspicions going as a secondary story. And you don't lose the Cody versus Roman mega clash at WrestleMania. But had it been at any other location, let's say Nebraska or South Carolina, no, it went down exactly as it should have. The only difference I would have had was change it just because it's in Montreal. That's about it.
Montreal's the key for you. Okay. Here's what I'm going to throw back before we move into everybody else. I'm going to add this point. This is my main takeaway from what you're saying. Normally, I'd agree with that kind of thinking. So I'd be like, whatever. I'm not so crazy about the one-day title thing, but here's the thing. The streak, the 900-plus day streak. Are we throwing away the 900-plus days of the Tribal Chief for just one day of Sami Zayn this close to WrestleMania? That's the sticking point for me.
And I get that. And here's my thought. If WWE is counting down to 1,000 days and making it a marketing ploy, sure. But if no one's going to keep count and he's already going to be, I don't even remember what San Martino's reign was, if everyone wants to keep talking numbers. So it wouldn't really matter, I think, in a vacuum, only if WWE would be keeping tabs on it. If they're not keeping tabs on he's almost at 1,000, then that's different. But he's already at 900 something. What more does an extra, 18, 22, whatever amount a month before Mania? What more does that really add to the legacy or take away from? I don't think it does anything.
Okay, Celis, get in here next.
Compelling arguments from Damien, and I'm a fan because if something is white hot, especially in Montreal, you want to take advantage of it. But here's the kicker. The story wasn't about Sami Zayn as this being the end of the story. And this is what you've been hearing WWE talking about on their television. Finish the story. Finish the story. The story is ultimately going to finish with Cody Rhodes. And I'll say this. I am torn if that story is actually going to finish at WrestleMania. It may not. However, Sami's story is going to continue to during the summertime, where you might see him get into that Money in the Bank ring that's going to build something else for his future championship run, which I do think he's going to get one of the world titles after they eventually split it. How they do it, I'm not sure. But this wasn't the story for him to end. This was the test to see, is it the time for him to hold up on that main event stage, possibly be that 2 to 3 month champion, which we've had seen for a long time until we had this long reign, which was well due for Roman's story. But this is not the end of Sami's story. Now, would have I liked to see it? Maybe could have teased a finish in different ways to make you think that Sami was going to win. Absolutely. But I think this was the right call to keep it on Roman, because this is not where Sami's story ends with this magnitude.
All right, Giant Crab, I'm very curious to hear your take on this.
So now I'm not well versed in the backstory. So did they make mention of the fact that he's champion for nearly 1,000 days? Was that like a big deal that they hyped up?
Not at all.
So then why should I care about that? So that's the thing. If they were out there selling T-shirts, Mr. 1000, whatever, then that would be one thing. Since they didn't, I think that you do kind of move on the babyface. Now, I'm going to contradict myself and say the match is Cody versus Roman. That is the match. That's always going to be what the match should be. It would be disingenuous to bring Cody back, do all the things, set him up, and then sell the pay-per-view as Cody versus Sami. Now, granted, that is what it would be for the more than casuals that have been following the story, waited with bated breath, can the underdog do it? But realistically, the story that they were selling, and even in the fever pitch, like Sami went to Cody for advice or whatever on Raw for some reason. They were still selling this story as Sami being the third wheel. I don't think they anticipated Sami getting as hot as he did. Of course not. And I think that obviously that's what they kind of had to move on. But this is what we saw was the limits of their wiggle room. Because the story always is and always would have been Cody versus Roman Reigns. Now, should Sami be champion? And that's the $1 billion question. I think he should. And the reason why is because you don't have this story that night in Montreal organically happen like that. Just to not have it square. They could have written Sami off. He was injured. Maybe he comes back next time they're in Canada or whatever. Because, it's Roman. It's the tribal chief. And also, it's wrestling. They can write the story whatever they want. So, they kept Cody away from Sami so that Cody doesn't get booed out of the gym. That was smart. They could have reversed it and kept Sami out of the picture by having Roman murder him for real, and kept him off the shelf until Money in the Bank. Maybe he comes back in July with that raucous British crowd in a Big 5 pay-per-view. Maybe he wins Money in the Bank and challenges Roman that night or challenges Cody that night. But that's also the thing, too. Would the 1,000 days come before or after WrestleMania? I don't know. If it's before, then who cares if he loses at WrestleMania? If it's after,
it'll be after. He just passed 900.
Right. So right. So 100 days is 3 more months. 3 months and change, right? 3 months and 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, if he just passed 900 days and we're starting March, then we're talking all of March, all of April, all of May, and then into June.
Yeah, early summer.
Yeah. So we're talking, well before the 4th of July, would his 1,000 day celebration be? So that's not even the plan. I think that there was room for Sami to gain the belt, have his month in the sun, and then drop it to Cody. He could have dropped it in a 3-way match. He could have dropped it in, some other stipulation match, cage match, Hell in the Cell, Man on the Moon, Money on the Roof, whatever they want to do. They'll come up with something and sponsor it by Mountain Dew. Goddammit, do it. But I really think that was an opportunity that WWE didn't capitalize on because they had the vision and the bigger picture is Cody versus Roman, full stop. And to be and I'm going to contradict myself again because that's what they've been selling you since he came back. That they can't. The bigger fish is Cody versus Roman. At the end of the day, no matter how you slice it, the bigger fish is Cody versus Roman, and we don't know when they're going back to Saudi Arabia. That's also because Sami's not walking into Saudi Arabia with the championship because he's not walking into Saudi Arabia. So that's another thing that has to be considered. Not knowing what that's going to be. For Roman to lose so much, for Sami to have it to be a transitional champion, is disingenuous to all parties. That's not the match that Cody wants. That's not that's not the loss that Roman should take. That's not the championship reign that Sami should have. It's not a pity party. He should win it because he should win it, not because he deserves it, because he earned it. And I don't think in this moment is his time to earn it. So I think in retrospect, they may have actually made the right move, but there is still space. You can't deny Sami too much longer. There is still space for him at the top of the card where he can still sneak in there, maybe win Money in the Bank in London, maybe, come through SummerSlam in August, maybe by Survivor Series. We've reset the table enough where it's Sami versus the champion, assuming that it's Roman or Cody. I don't think all is lost, but obviously you can't have it both ways. And I do think that I hate to give it to credit, but they made the right move. Damn.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at. Is my thinking is it's not that Sami isn't right for the title. It's not that he shouldn't be champion. It's a victim of time and place.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a month before Mania. We have a story with Cody Rhodes that was straight up set up the night after WrestleMania last year, where he made it clear, I am here to win the title that my father never won. They started that damn story a year ago. And he didn't mention Roman specifically, but Roman was champ then, he's champ now. So the goal for Cody has been the title from the beginning, since he showed up. Sami, meanwhile, was using the bloodline, to save his own ass and protect his position on SmackDown and not get beat up. And his story is more so with the bloodline in general. Hell, his story is more so with Jey Uso. And Jey not trusting him and finally winning him over. And he was always more centered in with that. Roman was above all that and defending the title against other people. So as far as the bloodline goes, I look at Sami and I see Jey Uso right across from him as like his main story of the past few months. I think, in the end, it really comes down to it's just a matter of time and place. And yes, Montreal would have been great. And yes, it'd be, your typical storybook thing of, oh my God, he won the title in his hometown and all this. But immediately the problem would be, how are we getting it off him? That's not our WrestleMania. And I don't see them completely changing WrestleMania just because of Sami Zayn in Montreal. Now, if it had been like in May, if it had been a different time in the calendar, if this long streak of a title reign wasn't going on, then I think it's a completely different story. But it's just this specific set of circumstances, I think, are what make it weird. I don't know. That's where it jumps out to me. And I think Sami this summer, maybe next fall, yeah, I think they can kind of circle back to it, I think. Especially if Roman goes away for the summer, then he comes back later on and, relaunches things to get his belt back and all this. There's meat on the bone here, but I think it's just a victim of circumstance with where we are right now.
Well,
go ahead, Damien.
Well, that's true, because think about it. Jamal said it first. Crab said it first, where no one expected this to be a thing with Sami Zayn, right? But then all of a sudden now we're comparing it to Kofi and DB and, the little underdog that could kind of thing. That's why there's still going to be meat on the bone.
Yeah.
But I think Jamal hit the nail on the head when he said, have him win Money in the Bank, have him cash it in on a UK crowd. The UK is going to love if that happens. They're going to go ballistic at Money in the Bank if that happens.
Yep.
Which I do listen to other podcasts about wrestling, and apparently that's what everyone's thought process is cool. He had his moment in Montreal. Remember the time when he debuted and separated his shoulder?
Oh my, Cena. Yep.
In his hometown, or either that or Calgary. So he still lost. So this isn't, a precedent. When Vince was in charge, they were still booking people to lose in their hometown. This isn't new. I just think this isn't a lightning in a bottle situation. I think it's a matter of Sami really coming into his own as a sports entertainer. And he won me over last year by getting Wee Man and them over at WrestleMania. Yes. Having that kind of a match and still making people have fun. And he's that kind of person. Even if you take the person himself outside of wrestling, all of his charity causes, opening schools in Syria, really decent human being, which in reality, sometimes we don't get enough of. So I get why some people think, oh, the flicker's out already, but because Sami has made himself relevant, mind you, not because KO did it first, but because he used KO almost as a launching pad, because typically it's the other way around. Like KO beat the crap out of Sami and then get rewarded, and now we see it in the inverse. So I honestly believe that this whole thing with the bloodline is a beautiful story. And one other wrinkle that just came to my mind, when Triple H took over creative, didn't WWE start to book writers who had a hand in writing movies with long-term storylines in terms of over a long period of time, like for sequels? So this might be up that alley if we really think about it. This is very Godfather-ish. We all know that. At least I think a lot of us know that. And I'm enjoying the ride. But for Sami to be thrust in the middle of it when he was originally supposed to be a joke says a lot about the performer.
It does too. And I want to throw this out there too. Is this similar situation where he lost, the same when Drew lost just a couple of months ago, right? Drew was in his hometown and you thought, oh, can Drew win the belt in his hometown? This is the perfect opportunity. This is his real moment that he never had at WrestleMania when he won the title for the first time, because that was during COVID. And this is a similar way. Or would you guys say it's different between the two comparisons? Once again, I know we're in WrestleMania season right now, but when you talk about just the scenario setup where, like you kind of mentioned, Damien, trying to win in your hometown and it doesn't happen, is very similar.
Absolutely right.
The difference I would see here is Drew at least was specifically going after Roman Reigns in the WWE title. Sami the way Sami's story is gone, he's like fallen into this position of challenger with them turning on him and, him trying to get back at them. But like I was saying earlier, his story is so much more involved with the Usos at its core. That's why I'm like, it's so easy to segue him out of this now into, look, you and Kevin Owens are going to team up. Now your job in this story of taking down the bloodline is with the Usos. Cody's story is going to be taking down Roman Reigns. And together, the three of you are going to take them down completely. That, or at least, that's the goal I think they're going to sell WrestleMania on, is the three of them as a unit trying to take everything the Bloodline has from the beginning.
6-man tag team match coming.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be doing those all over the place.
Yes.
Going back to what Davey had said earlier about the whole, he can hold it for one night and then we just go, right back, and just the first thing that jumps out to me when I hear that is just like, I'm sure the people that were so dead set on he should win the title and they can just take it off him, they would be the first ones throwing a fit if he lost it the next night. That doesn't do him justice. That doesn't, that makes the title reign meaningless. It's just, they just threw him a bone, and it just, it discounted everything they did in his hometown. I really think the people who are pushing that as an idea would not have been happy with that once it happened. They would have been the first ones complaining, I think.
I mean, but also we've had this happen in the women's division before, where Sasha lost, or now Mercedes lost her belt every time she defended it for the first time. So this wouldn't have been unprecedented. And people, yes, they complained, as they tend to do, but did the ship sink? No. Did everything still go down the road, down the boat merrily? Yeah. So this wouldn't have been much of a big deal, at least in my opinion. This isn't a Daniel Bryan situation. This isn't a Kofi Kingston situation, in my opinion. I think they're all separate, to be quite honest. And yes, people would have been upset that he lost the title or lost the match itself. I think what most people are more upset about is that this was a one and done potentially, and then he goes down a couple of notches, and then he's out of the main event picture, whereas Drew is still simmering around upper mid-card main event area, where people are finally seeing El Generico, Sami Zayn in the main event picture, and then he goes back down to the mid-card as a joke act. And I think a lot of people are worried about that in particular, more so than him, I want to say long-term, losing the title match to Roman.
Okay. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, I think there's still a lot of people who are reliving the trauma of years of, you got your shot, you're done. And it's like, that's not necessarily the case anymore. We're in a different era now. This is a different regime. And I don't think Sammy's getting, kicked to the curb, especially if things happen like we think they're going to happen, and him and Kevin Owens main event night one of WrestleMania. It's like, you ain't getting kicked to the curb. You're still in a very prime position here.
Well, yeah, but then again, I can understand that argument, because if you went from middling, to what I said as we ended last year, Sami Zayn really carried this storyline and brought it to the next level. So he is just as integral into giving this thing another set of legs. So the payoff should be him winning the world championship, because that's clearly the way this would have to go. So I can't imagine, our hero at the end of the day settling for a co-championship. And that's where it feels like a bit of a letdown. That's where it feels like, but it was right there and you didn't do it. I mean, and that's the thing. Whether it was, circumstance or not, the last two shows, the pay-per-view and the night before, were in his hometown.
Right.
Yeah.
With his best friends in their hometown versus the guy. I mean, and then of course, and they did the whole thing. They brought his wife out there, and all of that. So he got beat up in front of his family, and they really played at all of the heartstrings. And you really want to root for this guy. And there was a stunned crowd. Yeah. You would have thought the Trudeau got shot, with the way they were, just in awe of what the finish was. Because for a moment, those people actually believed that Sami was going to walk away with the belt. And that's, of course, what you want in storytelling. And it didn't end up the way that the crowd wanted. It didn't end up the way that a lot of people online wanted. But then again, this is just a bullet point in the bigger picture. This is one page at the end of one chapter in this big-ass 75-year history of WWE anthology. And there's still room down the road to grow. He didn't really fall down the ladder, Sami Zayn. He's still a rung or two from the top.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that they should do, Kevin and Sami in the tag team championships. I think that's that's not it. Sami did what he did, not necessarily not all by himself, but more to the point of, he cut his own teeth. He made his way. He is the centerpiece in this thing. And to share that with Kevin is kind of like, well, we've seen that before. But what I think they should do is revisit it down the road. Hell, maybe Cody wins on night one. But then again, Sami already lost. So, that's also a thing too. But, but everybody loses at some point. I'm not saying he doesn't have to fall far. He didn't fall far from this. If just because he didn't win in his hometown or the thing that coincidentally set it up to be awesome, doesn't mean he got buried. Money in the Bank's still a thing. Survivor Series is definitely a thing. And then SummerSlam is definitely a thing. There's definitely room to fit Sami Zayn in there. But fans are fickle. Because how would that temperature change if Cody wins? Because this isn't about 1,000 days, it never was. So if Cody wins before that 1,000-day mark happens, is that a reason for Roman to even keep the belt? Because Cody didn't do it this time doesn't mean he can't do it down the road as well. And you can always do a multi-man match later on. But so what is it? They're not selling us on Roman cementing his place in history because he's already 200-something days more than Bruno. Something crazy like that. So if we're talking,
Pedro Morales is the next one if he gets past 1,000. So
right. So if we're talking, numbers, and they're not, then are we, is that good enough reason for him to keep the belt at WrestleMania? Because everybody talks about the WrestleMania moment where only one person can have it.
Yeah, very
Does
true.
that go to Cody Rhodes? And then if it does go to Cody Rhodes, then what for him? Like he's done it. He came back to do the thing that he's going to do, and he did it. Now what?
This reminds me of when WWE pre-booked the Once in a Lifetime with Cena and The Rock, where they had it planned out for a whole year. They weren't going to deviate from the plan. So when Cody came back and he cut that promo on Raw the day after WrestleMania last year, that was the plan this entire time.
Yep.
So in reality, they've stuck to the script. It just so happens, again, the performer that is Sami Zayn is the asterisk now attached to that. And do they split the belts? And I don't want to guest book here, but they've got to find a way to profit off of this. I'm gonna use a business thought process. How can WWE make this more profitable?
All right.
More Sami merch, Sami plushies, like the little stuffed buddies or whatever the case may be, or Sami replica belts with a little what those things called, the Kango hats back in the day, something like that to market. I sound stupid, but remember they had a Fiend belt for like $3,000, so nothing is out of the ordinary for WWE. So I think for that standpoint, more so than fan backlash, I would be taking a look at potentially getting Sami a belt that isn't the tag team championships somehow, some way.
Well, they got 6 weeks between now and WrestleMania. And I think we're definitely going to see some moving pieces between now and then. Because Lord knows they have not made official anything about the tag team titles yet. We just got him and KO trying to get together. But right now, Kevin Owens wants nothing to do with him. Hell, we have not even had Cody and Roman Reigns in the same ring yet, which I'm waiting to see how that dynamic comes off. We've only had Cody Wiseman and Cody and Heyman. Exactly. We have not had Cody and the Tribal Chief. So that there are moving pieces in play. We know a lot of what WrestleMania looks like right now, but we don't know the whole picture. So,
but like you said, 6 weeks is a long time for 6 weeks, though.
Yeah, there's chairs that can be moved around still, if need be. All right. Well, folks, that's our first half of the show. We are going to have our commercial. And then when we get back after that, we got to talk about AEW. We're going to talk about MJF and how he is doing as champion, and also about the never-ending surprises that keep coming from Tony Khan. So stay with us, folks. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast continues right after this.
Are you a fan of all things media? Are you a fan of professional wrestling and sports? Then you need to check out Big Gold Belt Media. We're the ultimate destination for all things entertainment and media, with the latest news, interviews, and analysis from the world of the aforementioned entertainment realm. Our team of dedicated journalists and analysts will bring you exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. And we're not just an online destination. We attend live events, conventions, bringing you behind-the-scenes access and exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. Plus, you can show your support for our brand by subscribing to our Patreon, patreon.com/BigGoldBelt. Join the Big Gold Belt Media community today and stay ahead of the game. Follow all our social media platforms at Big Gold Belt for the latest updates and exclusive content. Whether you're a diehard wrestling, sports, nerd culture fan, or just a casual like some people, Big Gold Belt Media has everything you're going to need to stay informed and entertained. So what are you waiting for? Check us out today at biggoldbelt.com. That's biggoldbelt.com.
All right, folks, we are back for our second half. And as we like to do each and every week here on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, we kick off the second half with Giant Crab and his indie wrestling spotlight.
So tonight, this week, we're going to go out west to San Francisco, out there in California. It's West Coast Pro, the West Coast, Best Coast, really debatable title. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, but that is the name of the show, West Coast, Best Coast. And I want to spotlight it because the card looks amazing. And that's why the show is sold out. You know, you can't even get tickets. Don't worry about it. You know, good for them. Out. Good for them for selling out. You know, good for them. You know, we want to see more indie shows sold out. That's why we do this. We want you to go out there and take in some live wrestling. But the only way that you're going to see this show, if you don't have tickets already, is on independentwrestling.tv. The show is March 4th in San Francisco, and that is at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. in the real time zone, the East Coast. But you have Titus Alexander versus Nick Wayne, tables, ladders, and chairs for the West Coast Pro Championship. That's going to be nuts. Thatcher versus Mike Bailey. That's going to be nuts. Vinny Massaro versus Ricky Champagne. That's going to be a lot of fun. Just the card looks ridiculous. It's definitely worth staying up late. Revolution is the next night, so you don't have to worry about that. It's March the 4th, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. That's 9 days and some change from now. You can watch it on independentwrestling.tv. Or if you already have your tickets, you already know to be out there in San Francisco for West Coast Wrestling Show. West Coast, Best Coast, very debatable title, but hell of a card. And that's the independent spotlight for this week.
Awesome. Always good to have some indie action going on. Some of us, myself and 2 Chains, were down at the final PW Vibe show this past week here in DC, and they absolutely tore the house down at DC Brow. So lots of good stuff happening on the indies as we're heading into the spring. And of course, got California out there. They'll be having tons of shows come the end of March. So lots of action happening as warmer months are approaching. So get out there and see some live wrestling, folks, because there's all kinds of people out there working all kinds of shows. So there's no shortage of people to check out these days on the indie wrestling scene. So as we switch gears here, Giant Crab brought this one up, and we've definitely been talking about it for a while, just how things have been going since the fall with MJF as AEW champion. And we're a couple weeks out now from Revolution with Bryan Danielson. I got to correct my head. Bryan Danielson challenging for the title in the Iron Man match at Revolution. And it begs the question, and I've seen it from a few people, how is this MJF run going? And is it possibly a reason already to switch gears? Are the tires already running flat this quickly into the run? Damian, I see you already nodding up there. So just jump right in. Let's hear it.
Not only are the tires about to go flat and burst, but they are balding very quickly, in my opinion. I'm over it. I think I told you on social media last night, I watched Dynamite for the first time in a long time. This was the first time I turned off an MJF promo probably since his indie days. And I thought about this. I thought, is it Bryan's fault that MJF is coming across as staler than normal? Because a lot of people were over his shtick when he was going up against Punk. A lot of people were over his shtick when he won the title from when he beat Moxley or something like that, to that affinity. He's not a Flair type of heel. He talks trash on the mic. He's a sports entertainer. And as much as I've seen him actually wrestle on the indies, is he a 5-star classic guy waiting to happen like Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson? No. Does he got it in him? I think that's the biggest key with this 60-minute Iron Man match. Is it just going to be a whole bunch of chicanery and nonsense for 60 minutes to keep the title as a chicken shit heel? And I hate to say it, he's coming across to me more and more like The Miz every single time he comes out. Just a lot more buff and a lot more younger. And he's a sports entertainer. He actively is a sports entertainer, more so than a wrestler. And since AEW is a pro wrestling crowd, because like 3/4 of the roster appeared for PWG, if not more. So it's a pro wrestling crowd. They're not going to be into the whole Ravishing Rick Rude style of insulting your town, dissing the sports team, calling you fat, ugly, and whatever insult you want to use in 2023. You know who that reeks of? That reeks of Edge. That reeks of Edge's title runs back in WWF/E, where he was a chicken shit heel. And I'm not saying they're the same on the mic. I'm saying the way they're going about it. It seems as if MJF is actually just a transitional champion. Now, do I foresee them actually pulling the trigger, giving it to Bryan? No, because they've had that opportunity. I think there's going to be something bigger with the Blackpool Combat Club and Bryan going down the road. I see that being a thing. But if I had to rate it 1 to 10, this has been a 2.
Ooh, harsh words. Okay, who's going next?
I mean, I'll go next, and I'll say this from a vantage point. I have not seen AEW for a while. However, I do keep up with it. Then even as I'm hearing Damian, I'm thinking to myself, is it anything that I'm listening to wants to cue me back to see how this title run is going? And I'm a MJF fan. I like it. And right now I feel like crap. It's like, do I care? Because it's nothing in there for me to care about me getting back in there. Now, you said something interesting, Damian, and I think this is very good to touch on. MJF, where he was in the indies, is not where he is as a top person, quote unquote, in AEW. Right. And if you have a pro wrestling crowd like AEW, you don't need to talk and do a 20-minute promo to tell yourself for a match. They want to see you do the match and talk about how good you are at wrestling, which is a difference than what The Miz does in WWE, to tries to sell you a story through his conversation, which leads to a match, which WWE is more on that Hollywood gimmick of what type of entertainer you can be. Now, am I seeding those feeds into him going to WWE? Yes, but I'm not saying he's going to be in the WWE or fits that mold either. But right now, he's not fielding what that mojo should be for the top person in AEW. And I think AEW, that's where they're struggling. Whoever is their top person needs to be what's your gimmick, what's your theme, what your vision is for your company. And I think AEW is still struggling in that area right now, and MJF's not the person.
Okay. So there's 2 things with this. Number one, Max Friedman is the same guy that I saw in Creator Pro all them years ago. The gimmick really hasn't evolved since then.
Correct.
Some would argue that it doesn't have to. Okay, cool. Some would argue that it has slightly. But see, here's the thing. If you tell me that you're the worst person in the world, you're so bad, you're irreproachable, you are just absolute human debris, why would I care about any of your stories? The story that he told last night was that he lost his girl, lost things that he loves, and the only thing that he loves is the championship. Why would I give a shit about what you love if I hate you? I mean, does that make him an effective heel? Well, not to me, because I think he's boring. Because again, he tells a very long-winded story about things that I don't particularly care about. Oh no, Bryan has kids. I'm going to talk to them. Well, don't talk to my kids because they're my kids and people can't talk to kids. Okay. Well, Bryan has concussions. No shit, he has concussions. Friedman is going to separate his shoulder, reaching for that low hanging fruit every single goddamn time. Every single time. It's the same thing. What's that one thing that you know about a person that we're just going to dig into? And the reason why people ooh and ah about it is because, well, he actually said the thing that we've been saying on the internet forever. So why am I impressed by that? So he called out Bryan for having, concussions and that he's selfish for not neglecting his family and not wanting to instead of wrestling. He's in the ring risking life and limb for what? When he could be at home playing with his kids. Why would I care about you saying that? It doesn't make sense to me that he's trying to convince me on an emotional level that I should care about somebody that I'm not supposed to like. So there's that. Can he work? Well, I was at Full Gear, and him and Darby stole the show. So I know that he has it in him. I don't know if he has 60 minutes worth of it in him. And Bryan's going to either, and this is point number 3. CM Punk said it, you're a low rate Miz. And people went, oh shit, he's right. Ricky Stark said it. Well, I dress better than you, and your gimmick is Burberry everything.
Right.
And people went, oh shit, he's right. And what did he do with Ricky Starks? Oh, well, you used to be in NWA, so you need to go back there because you suck. Again, low-hanging fruit.
Right.
What did he say about CM Punk? Well, you left me. You left us all because of whatever bullshit you had in WWE 25 years ago. Again, low-hanging fruit. He says about Bryan, his concussions and CTE, low-hanging fruit. So what next? What's going to be the next thing? I guess it's going to be more low-hanging fruit. So the thing about Friedman is, and this is why I asked the question, he's the guy holding the belt that's driving the bus towards the pay-per-view. He's the champion. Whether you like him or you don't, he's still the person that you want to see either get his comeuppance or win it, depending on what side of the fence you're on. Okay, cool. I don't give one squirt of possum milk about what Friedman's going to do today, tomorrow, or the day after, because I don't care about him as a person. Now, full disclosure, I'm not a promo guy. I watch wrestling for the wrestling. I don't watch sports for the pregame show. I don't watch sports for the postgame show. Start the bell, raise the flag, ring, drop the puck, tip the ball, whatever you got to do. Let's get the game on. So I already don't care about promos, and that's more. And his gimmick is more promo than wrestling. I think in general, we said that Adam Page wasn't that guy, and the reason why he wasn't that guy was because he had this identity crisis, and I don't have time to care about that. Whether I personally hate him, but people like Moxley, but he's already been champion 2 or 3 times already, and that's kind of a thing that we need to move away from. They tried to do it with Punk, and that didn't work out because his bones are made out of Ritz cracker. So they gave it to Friedman, who's the young guy. He gets over with the crowd. But this is the question: how much of that is Friedman's fault, and how much of that is AEW's inability to book a competent champion?
Good point.
I don't care who you are, unless you're writing your own program. AEW will not book a championship reign for you. Every championship reign they've had, where the company is leading the charge, has fallen flat after the initial win. Where's Jade? Physically, where is she? Get the milk cartons out. We don't know. What does she have going on? Who's the women's champion? Jamie Hayter. Well, she's involved in this WWE type feud between the OGs and the homegrowns that we've seen before. Okay, cool. Who's the TNT champion? Samoa Joe. Do we care? Okay. No, because he's going to fight Wardlow again, because we haven't seen that before, and it was underwhelming that time. Oh, that's right. Wardlow got his head ponytail shaved off, and that meant a lot to his father. Like, he's fucking Samson. I don't care. Who is the tag team champions? Oh, the Acclaim. The Acclaim lost to the Guns. That nobody cares
Gun Club.
About, which I good for them. They're actually one of the better heels in the company. People really don't like them, as they shouldn't. But the Acclaim's got a rematch clause, and they're going to have an 8-man tag. For the championship, 4-way quadruple box cube match at the pay-per-view. None of these feuds that are going to culminate the pay-per-view are worth $50. And leading the charge of that for the past, well, definitely month, but they're going to kick it in the overdrive between this week and next week, is Max Friedman.
Yep.
Does Max Friedman, and I'm saying this objectively, because I already know, where my, loyalties lie with my wallet. Does Max Friedman versus Daniel Bryan for an hour scream $50 to you?
No.
Nope.
Not at
The
all.
way they built this pay-per-view, it does not to me.
It doesn't make sense for the story. You beat up his mentor, and in his comeback is, instead of "I want to beat your ass," it's "I'm gonna wrestle you for an hour after what you did to William Regal." It's
Okay.
just-
No,
Yeah,
he's going to do the same story that he did with Cody. I'm going to put you through your Herculean trials. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to do the same story that Jericho did. Well, I'm going to put you through
Thank
my
you.
Herculean
The
trials.
trials.
And
Mhm.
then he does that story again, and you can hear in the background somebody peeling the hell out to get the hell away from this pay-per-view. They're Tokyo drifting
there's
away
so
from
much-
this pay-per-view into
Yes.
the summer already.
Yes.
There is a lot of stuff just being rehashed and recycled that we've seen over and over again. And like I said, whether it's the different angles or whether it's just we've seen the same shtick from MJF.
Yep.
For those of us that have seen him from the indies, it's the same shtick. So there's the newer fans that just know him from AEW, but yes, he's a good promo, and yes, he can speak, but it's the same shtick that we've seen for years now. Oh, you're muted. We lost.
Sorry.
Crab
Yeah.
sound there.
Is
There you
this, since Ric Flair was brought up, is this Flair Steamboat? No.
No.
Now, that's the
No.
thing. We already know what Bryan can do. We know what that looks like. We're not questioning. Nobody's questioning whether or not Bryan can hang an hour. The onus is on Friedman, and he's the champion. So why is it that the champion feels like an underdog in his
In his own
match
story.
That's
6
right.
months into his
Yeah.
reign?
All right.
And the reason why he feels like an underdog is because everybody and their mother knows, Stevie Wonder knows, and can see that Daniel Bryan is a better in-ring technician than Friedman.
Yeah.
Because if you're telling me that he could barely hang with Darby, and he did, and that was a hell of a match, and then he beats Moxley for the championship. Okay, well that's not comparable either. So he's arguably facing his toughest task in Bryan, who he threw the gauntlet at. And Bryan, of course, moonwalked his way into the championship picture. So he beat your 4 or 5 best. And all of a sudden, the final boss is you, and you don't feel like a final boss.
And he's not. And I think that's the whole thing. We're all not complaining, but bringing up.
I'm
is the
complaining,
fact that-
goddammit. This shit.
You're fine. You're complaining, and we're just
Damn right.
pointing out the obvious. He is not a final boss type.
Nope.
I feel as if this run proves that he is not the final boss, or he's nothing without, let's say, a group of people, a group of like the Firm. If he would have stayed with the Firm as a cohesive unit with the Guns, I think that could have been something as a dominant shit heel faction with Big Bill as the bouncer. I think that could have done something. I think he's
Honestly,
best hidden. Go
I
ahead.
think Ethan Page is a better heel than since you brought up the Farm, just specifically because I do watch AEW arguably more than anybody here. Ethan Page and Matt Hardy, for me, have the best program of the company. And yes, it's been mostly on Dark, but the way that they've been going back and forth with Hardy being subservient and Isaiah Cassidy as the boy that he's kind of aloof, and Ethan Page as this corporate, tyrant, boss from hell, has really played into both of their characters, and it's gone really, really well. And we don't see a lot of it on Dynamite, but it is what it is. With Friedman, you know what you're getting. I can grill a steak and cheese right now and come back in 12 minutes and be like, oh, is it? Yep. And we're done. 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was, he told the story about how he, switched bodies after drunk driving with the girl or whatever it was.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So why would I care about that? You were doing a thing that every 80s movie starts off with, and you went out to look to make out lane. You couldn't hold your nut, and all of a sudden, you flipped over your car 17 times, and then you blamed it on the girl. That's
Wouldn't that be something a face tells as a story to get sympathy?
Right. So why would I? How is that relevant to the championship?
Correct.
Right.
Unless they bring out this chick in her casket.
Katie Vick.
She's gonna be in Daniel Bryan's corner in her wheelchair.
Yeah, I mean, unless her name was Katie Vick, which I thought that was what he was going to say it was. I don't know why I would care. Like, emotionally, I'm not supposed to like you. I don't care about you.
Yeah, it's apathy. It's not boo. It's apathy at this point.
And I think part of the problem is the fans, and this is y'all fault. I'm talking to y'all that are out there support this bullshit. Stop cheering the heels because you think that you're smarter than the business. Stop that shit.
Huge point.
That is the biggest detriment to how storytelling goes, because Khan keeps giving this guy an open mic in 20 minutes when he could have had another women's match, because you guys take to the internet immediately after and goes, that was Shakespearean. No, it wasn't. He repackaged the same damn thing, said it put it in a different setting, and you guys are eating it up. It's Soylent Green. Stop it. And if you're not old enough to know what that is, then Google it.
There you go. Like
also,
you said
real
before,
quick, Will, one more point.
Yeah, get in there.
I said it before the break about him. Here is why he's Miz. Do you remember when he wrestled John Cena at WrestleMania and he was the champion?
I was there.
Who cared?
I did. I'm just kidding. But go ahead. I know where you're going with your point.
This is very similar where Bryan is the Cena in this situation. Now, don't get me wrong. We're missing The Rock.
You're very right.
But he's the Cena in this situation. So you're rehashing something that came out, 13, 14 years ago?
2011.
And now we're coming back around to it, and I'm still supposed to care for the heel? Because WWE with the Miz bit with Cena, they steered into the fact that Miz don't deserve it on paper with the fans. They steered into it. Here, Tony's trying to get us to really understand that he's detestable. He sucks. He's the kind of heel you want to beat up. No, he isn't. He's the kind of heel I want to put his face in the toilet bowl and give him a flush if he was like a nerd in high school. He's not detestable. He's annoying. And there is a big difference of the two when it comes to being a world champion. 100%. Flair was detestable because he cheated to win and he was a good wrestler. Max ain't.
Good point. Damien, that's a very good point, because even as you told that story, I was replaying that Miz promo before the match, and that's what that promo video was. It was like, by me as the champion, you should understand why I need to be the champion. And it's the same thing they're doing with MJF based on how you describe him. Once again, I haven't seen it, but it's a direct comparison. I love that.
Yeah, I think that nails it. Because the big thing is he's got the promos. That's his biggest strength. Yep. But then the wrestling, it's just there. And then the problem with that now is the wrestling's just there, and we're getting to the point that we've heard the promos for too long. So what's left then?
60 minutes? Oof.
Yeah. It's going to be something else.
Let me ask you this, because it's going to go either way. They're going to have the match, and it's going to go 60 minutes. If Friedman doesn't absolutely have the match of his life, and I mean that, this needs to be the greatest thing that he's ever done in the ring. If he does that, then maybe, just maybe, he'll be worthy of the bullshit that he talks. But then the stuff that he says isn't really relevant to wrestling. It's just about him outside of the ring, and who cares? If he does not have an absolute barn-burning classic, I don't know how long people will stomach him as the champion. Not because he shouldn't, not because he's a heel, mostly because I don't care anymore.
Like you said, it's apathy. That's what it's going to turn into. All right. We'll see what happens. A couple weeks away from that one, folks. So our last quick topic, the surprise of last night. We had another Tony Khan. This one was a major announcement, I think it was. It wasn't a huge announcement. It was a major announcement. which ended up being the announcement of the reality show AEW All Access, which will be starting in March. We didn't get an exact date. It will be following Dynamite. It's going to be kind of a different, they're going to follow different people around. They're going to start out with Adam Cole and Britt Baker, but they also mentioned Tay Conti and Sammy Guevara. They mentioned Eddie Kingston. They mentioned a bunch of different names of, I guess, different people that will be featured on it, and probably Tony Khan himself doing the reality show thing. And needless to say, that was received, it seemed, I'll say lukewarm might be being generous for how this news was received. People were just kind of like, okay, that's the latest surprise from AEW, since this, seems like maybe every month or month to 6 weeks, we seem to get one of those.
Right.
So the question is, Crab brought it up earlier in our little group chat. Is there really a surprise that AEW could drop on us? That would really be a surprise. That would really be like, something big that's really, at least from our perspective personally, that would be something. I know what mine is. I'm going to wait, but Crab, how about you get in here first? Since it was your idea, let's hear your thoughts on this real quick.
I'll make it quick, and I'll just say that if AEW were to, if the news came out that AEW filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission to buy WWE, that would be an actual surprise.
Damn atom bomb.
Not in the Shane McMahon appearing in Panama City surprise, but I mean that like a press conference, everybody's there, and we see Tony Khan in a Jaguar suit. And whether it's a suit made of actual Jaguar or
oh god,
or whatever the logo, him walking into Titan Tower in Stanford, across the street from where they taped Jerry Springer, and going into the building and setting up seeing Tony Khan and Vince McMahon on the same screen as they both signed letters of intent for the sale from one to the other would be an unfathomable announcement.
Yeah.
For a number of different reasons that we can get into later. But good Lord.
I'd call that biggest surprise of all time if that happened. Hell, never mind huge surprise. Celis, how about you go next?
I was thinking two things here, but I'm gonna go say that one biggest surprise is that they go bankrupt. AEW goes bankrupt.
Opposite.
So I'm gonna go opposite. Which causes them to basically end their promotion. That'll be something surprising for me. Which you think they won't go bankrupt because of who's behind it with the cons, but we go bankrupt. Kind of like a XFL type from the first season with Vince McMahon trying to do that before they got repackaged twice. That's my biggest surprise.
Well, right, since you two took the ones I was going to say, thank you. I'm going to just pick something low tier, which to me would be a general surprise, is if they have Jade Cargill win the World's Heavyweight Championship.
That would be a surprise. Intergender.
No, would that be an announcement though? What would the announcement be that Khan would make that justifies
her wrestling for the World Heavyweight Championship?
Got it.
Because she's undefeated.
Saying that she's so damn good, she could take on MJF.
The heavyweight title knows no gender. It's just heavyweight. And if Jade's over 225, she should be able to make it work.
For a promotion on that level to do it, it's only Impact's really done it on a national level.
And they can get away with it because nobody watches Impact.
Yeah. So, I don't know. See, I was thinking more like feasible things that could possibly happen. And Lord knows we've heard forever, people saying, well, if they announced a streaming deal, and like a streaming deal to me would be big, but specifically for it to be big, I would need to hear they have a streaming deal with a specific platform that already exists. Not them starting a service, not that we're going to be on Honor Club, none of that. It'd have to be comparable to WWE and Peacock. Something like that where they're going on an established thing that people already have and they're going to be added to it, where it guarantees them an audience from the jump. That's what I would want to hear. Yeah. And honestly, it probably have to be, for it to be big to me, it'd have to be bigger than HBO Max. Because that just seems, that's just in the same family. It's just, you managed it. That would be, you got the deal done. You tell me, oh, we're getting on Netflix or you're getting on Amazon.
Yeah.
Then I mean, oh, that's something. That's something
Okay.
because that would get you involved with another conglomerate of some sort.
If that's the case, what if they had a deal with ESPN and they're
there
on
you go.
ESPN weekly?
Yeah,
Wow.
something like that. Something like that.
I think that would be something that would catch people out of left field because for a long time, everyone thinks Disney's going to be the one that buys WWE. But what if they just did a 180 and they said, cool, we can't get WWE. Let's get the second biggest and go over here.
AEW.
And then buy AEW and put it on ESPN. What the Ocho? Then Jericho can call himself the Ocho at this point for real.
Yeah.
But make it part of your regular lineup and then see what happens.
I think another major announcement would be announcing a world tour. You know, not just shows around the area. Maybe they take a quarter off. Quarter 4, 2023, quarter 1, 2024, and it's like, well, we are going to go around the world and we're going to do 20 cities in 20 weeks or whatever. Or 20 cities in 10 weeks, whatever it would be. But the bottom line is that it would have to be something that's truly unprecedented.
Yeah.
Because saying that it's a major announcement and the major announcement is the reality show that's basically Roads to the Top, but obviously not Roads, is a thing. But then again, low key, and I was going to mention this just before we get off the air anyway, Ring of Honor is actually being taped this weekend. Down in Orlando, February 25th and 26th, there's a 6 p.m. show and there's a 7 p.m. show at Universal Studios. So tickets start at $20 and you can get your tickets at rohtickets.com. But the bottom line is that is a pretty damn big announcement. First ever Con of Honor tapings. And
Con of Honor.
I like that. Con of Honor.
I'm not sure if that's bigger than like this reality show, but the bottom line is that if you want to be in the place where history is going to be made, that's a pretty big announcement.
True.
Now, where these, and obviously these are tapings, so, and they're TV tapings, we don't know where the TV part of it comes into play, but I think that's a pretty damn big announcement that I just happened to see on Twitter earlier today.
Yeah.
So
things we have to stay tuned to as we head out of February into March. And is Revolution in 2 weeks? Week after next, right?
Revolution is March 5th, so that would be next week.
Next weekend.
Oh, geez, it's sooner than we thought. Okay, so they got to go into putting the final touches on that one.
Yeah, and they only have 5 matches booked so far. So they're going to throw together another 10 matches, between the next 3 shows, the 2 Dynamites and Rampage, and with the Dynamite and the 2 Rampages over the next week. But yeah, I mean that's obviously always going to be the question as long as they continue to do it. Are these shows worth $50? And if you're paying for it, actually that's the question to you. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know on social media if you've already bought Revolution and you've already planned to stream it. Why? What's the match that's worth your money? What is your $50 getting you? I really want to know. I don't plan on watching it. If I do, maybe I'll go to a theater because it's cheaper. But I really want to know, what's your $50 get you when you're ordering Revolution next weekend?
Yeah, good question. Because Lord knows that price tag in this day and age, that's a premium price for pay-per-view, as we've discussed many a time.
You're getting an hour of MJF. That's for sure.
Right.
That's for sure. That is for sure. All right, gentlemen, we are at our hour, so it is time to wrap it up. The time always goes so quick when we got so much going on. But like we said, Revolution coming up in a week, so I'm sure we'll check in about that again next week and where we are on the road to WrestleMania and who knows all what else. But everyone, thanks for tuning in to your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast every Thursday night, 8 p.m. right here, YouTube, Twitch, and on all social media platforms, dropping the next morning in podcast form on all your favorite podcast outlets, wherever you pick up your podcasts. The audio version's there too the following morning. So thanks for tuning in, folks. We will see you next week, and stay safe till then, and we'll talk to you later.
All I really need, that big old belt.